The first knock came on the door of a hydrominer's shelter orbiting Titan's frozen plain. The miner, half asleep, thought it was the sound of settling ice. The second knock followed, patient and deliberate, echoing through his oxygen dome until his pulse quickened. When he opened the hatch, he saw her, a silhouette outlined in the stormlight, her skin reflecting faint hues of violet and silver, her eyes two small galaxies quietly imploding. She said only a few words before stepping back into the void, "Do you know the man who saved my son?" Then she was gone, swallowed by methane fog. In the following months, her presence became a cosmic rumor. Across the outer colonies, in dust domes, mining rigs, spaceports, and orbital sanctuaries, humans whispered of the woman who wandered between stars. Some called her the ghost of the warfront, others claimed she was an emissary from a forgotten race seeking revenge or peace, it was hard to tell which. Yet wherever she passed, strange energy readings followed, warped gravitational signatures, electromagnetic ripples, faint trails of dark matter residue that defied known physics. Her ship, if it could be called that, was sighted only once, described as a tear of light stitched into reality, vanishing before sensors could focus. No official reports confirmed her existence, yet the sightings continued. Command posts denied involvement, scientists drafted theories that danced between the mystical and the absurd. People began to listen for the knock, three soft raps that seemed to resonate not in air, but in bone. In the colonies of New Cydonia, on the asteroid markets of Phobos Belt, and in the megastructures orbiting Jupiter, witnesses reported her asking the same haunting question. Always calm. Always searching. Some tried to follow her trail, but she never stayed long enough to be caught. It was said she could sense deceit, or perhaps she had technology that rendered her untouchable. Those who met her spoke of a grief so deep it bent the air around her. A few described seeing her touch walls, soil, metal, all as if listening through her fingertips. One child claimed she cried while standing before a holographic image of a human soldier carved into a memorial stone, whispering words in a language no one understood. By the third year of her search, the pattern became unmistakable. She was tracing human settlements in a deliberate sequence, following a path that mirrored the old refugee routes from the collapse wars, the same war that had nearly erased her species. But no one dared confront her directly. Humanity, having learned to fear the unpredictable nature of interspecies contact, chose silence over curiosity. After all, she had harmed no one. She only knocked, asked, and moved on. Deep within a derelict relay station drifting near the Kuiper Belt, a young communications officer named Mara Vex pieced together a series of transmission anomalies. Each anomaly occurred within hours of a reported sighting, small quantum pulses buried in the local static. When she decoded the pulses, she found fragments of memory recordings, a human voice screaming over radio interference, a child's whimper, an explosion, then silence. The recordings weren't from any human archive. They were alien in format, impossible to replicate with known tech. Yet embedded within them was something unmistakably human, DNA resonance signatures matching a Terran soldier's genetic profile. Mara sent her findings up the chain of command, but the reports vanished into bureaucratic voids. A week later, she was reassigned to a research vessel on the edge of known space. Before leaving, she transmitted the data to one private channel, a forgotten comm line belonging to an agricultural moon named Illyra 9. The message was short: "She's looking for you." Meanwhile, the alien mother continued her journey. She didn't eat or sleep as humans did. Her body drew sustenance from solar winds and background radiation, her cells crystalline and adaptive. The stars were both map and companion. Yet her search was not infinite. With each world she visited, her luminous form dimmed slightly, her energy thinning. The artifact she carried, small, translucent, alive, pulsed weaker each day. It contained what remained of her son's essence, preserved through technology lost even to her kind. To revive him, she needed the one whose genetic code once stabilized the child's dying system, a human soldier whose act of mercy had transcended biology. Sometimes, when the cold emptiness of space surrounded her too tightly, she would close her eyes and relive the moment. A battlefield of glass and ash. Her child, crushed beneath the ruins of their burning homeworld. The air thick with human artillery fire. And then, him. A man in a torn exosuit, bleeding from his ribs, lifting debris with trembling arms. He didn't speak her language, but his eyes carried defiance and sorrow. He placed a stabilizer against her child's chest, overriding the alien interface with his own life signature. The device had worked, at a cost. Now, across time and war, she searched for that man. When her ship finally entered the orbit of Illera 9, the stars seemed to hold their breath. Below stretched fields of blue wheat, swaying under twin suns, their roots whispering through magnetic soil. It was a quiet world, untouched by conflict for decades. As her craft descended, she felt something she hadn't in years, a resonance, faint but familiar. The artifact in her hands flickered with weak light, like a heartbeat recognizing its echo. She landed at the edge of the farmlands, her luminous figure stepping onto the soil with reverence. Around her, drones paused mid-flight, their AI protocols stuttering at her presence. The wind carried the faint hum of human machinery. She began to walk, each step measured, precise. Her eyes scanned the horizon until they rested on a small, weathered farmhouse at the end of a dirt path. For the first time in 3 years, she felt certainty. The man she sought lived there, beneath those quiet suns, unaware that the knock meant for him had already begun to echo across the cosmos. The mornings on Illera 9 came slowly, light spreading across the twin suns like a slow heartbeat. Elias Varon rose before dawn, as he always did, his body still disciplined by habits from a life he no longer remembered. He tended to his machines first, the irrigation drones, the soil balancers, the bio-harvesters that hummed along the rows of shimmering wheat. Their movements were mechanical, predictable, comforting. In contrast, his own mind was not. Every night brought dreams that felt more like memories breaking through static, a child's faint cry, metal tearing, smoke blooming in low gravity. Then, silence. Always silence. The locals said Illera 9 was a peaceful moon. Peaceful was what people called a place after forgetting what war sounded like. The planet's 2 suns left no real darkness, yet Elias felt shadows moving through his days. He'd been here almost 10 years, though sometimes it felt like a lifetime folded into someone else's story. Officially, he was listed as a retired logistics officer from the United Colonies military. The records showed nothing before that, no birthplace, no family, no service logs beyond his final deployment. Whenever he asked about the missing data, the system returned the same message, access restricted by order of Central Command. He told himself it didn't matter. He grew food, maintained his bots, watched the stars in the evening. Yet sometimes, when the wind carried the faint hum of ion storms from the upper atmosphere, he would pause, certain he heard a whisper threaded through the static, something like his name, spoken by a voice he couldn't recall. That morning, one of his harvest drones malfunctioned. The optical sensors blinked erratically, displaying garbled patterns across its interface, spirals of light, too symmetrical to be random. When he tried to reset it, a strange symbol appeared on the holoscreen, 3 interlocking circles with a vertical line through their center. He didn't recognize it, but the sight filled him with an unease that lingered long after the system rebooted. By evening, he had convinced himself it was a glitch from dust interference. But the symbol returned, drawn faintly in the soil near the farmhouse door, etched as if by invisible hands. That night, Elias dreamt of fire. Not the kind that consumed, but one that pulsed rhythmically, like breathing light. In his dream, he stood on a world with a fractured horizon, and beside him knelt a child with silver eyes. The child reached out to him, whispering something Elias couldn't understand. Then the stars folded inward, and he woke, heart racing, the sound of the wind outside carrying that same faint knocking, 3 slow, deliberate taps. He froze. It came again, softer this time, almost polite. His hand went instinctively to the sidearm he hadn't used in a decade. When he opened the door, there was only the night, heavy with electric haze from the solar winds. The fields swayed quietly, their metallic leaves catching glimmers of starlight. No one stood there. But the air shimmered faintly, as if it had been disturbed. He stepped outside. The knock had left a mark, not on the door, but in him. A deep, inexplicable recognition, like hearing a melody you'd once known by heart. He scanned the horizon. Far off, something bright moved along the sky, descending silently beyond the ridge. For a moment, he thought it might be a meteor. Then it stopped mid-air, hovering before vanishing completely. The next day, the sensors along the western perimeter began to fail, one after another. Elias tracked the interference to a specific wavelength, an energy reading unlike anything in the system's registry. It wasn't natural. It wasn't human. It pulsed in slow intervals, as if breathing. He ran a diagnostic through his old military software, and the program responded with a single word he hadn't seen in years: Valir. The name sparked a sharp pain behind his eyes, like a memory clawing its way to the surface. He had heard that name before. Not here. Not as a farmer. Somewhere far from this moon. Somewhere burning. That night, as he repaired the perimeter relay, a voice spoke through the static. It was faint, distorted, but unmistakably real. Elias Varen. He froze. The sound wasn't transmitted through his comm, it vibrated directly in his skull, bypassing every device. Do you remember the child? He dropped the tool from his hand, backing away slowly. The fields around him shifted with the wind, but the voice persisted, calm and mournful. You saved him. You promised you would return. Elias's throat tightened. He wanted to shout back, to demand an explanation, but his body refused. Instead, fragmented images burst into his mind, hands coated in blood, a dome collapsing, a child gasping for air through translucent lungs. Then, a woman's scream echoing through a void of stars. He stumbled, clutching his head as the images burned through him. When he looked up, he saw her standing at the edge of the field. She didn't move toward him. The air around her seemed to fold inward, bending light, distorting sound. Her form was both solid and translucent, her skin reflecting the moon's glow in shades of violet and silver. The sight of her triggered something in him: terror, recognition, awe. He wanted to run but couldn't. She took a step forward, her voice breaking through the silence again. I have searched for you through 1,000 worlds. Her accent twisted the human tongue, shaping each word as though it carried weight far beyond sound. You are the one who saved my son. Elias shook his head. You're mistaken. I've never. But the words died. She raised her hand, revealing an object glowing faintly in her palm. It was small, crystalline, pulsing like a living heart. And when the light from it touched his face, his vision fractured. He saw himself years younger, standing amidst ruins, reaching out to a small alien child with the same glow beneath its skin. His own hand was covered in blood and light. Then it was gone. He was back in the field, trembling, breath ragged. The woman's eyes shimmered with sorrow. You forgot, she whispered. They made you forget. He took a step backward, the word echoing through his skull. They. Somewhere deep in his erased memories, the shape of that truth began to rise. The war hadn't ended the way he'd been told. The silence wasn't peace, it was a cover. And as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the alien mother lowered her hand, and for the first time in years, Elias Varen remembered what fear felt like. Elias didn't sleep that night. The images replayed endlessly behind his eyes, the child, the blood, the collapsing sky. The woman's words circled him like gravity, bending every thought toward a single point: they made you forget. He sat in the dark kitchen, the hum of the generator filling the silence. Through the small window, he could see faint traces of her ship beyond the ridge, shimmering ripples that distorted the stars above it. It wasn't solid in the way human ships were, it seemed to hover between realities, its edges blurring and reforming, as if struggling to exist within this universe. He found himself tracing the edges of his old service tattoo on his wrist, the mark of the 19th Expeditionary Corps. He hadn't thought about it in years. The insignia was faded, almost gone, yet something pulsed beneath it now, faintly luminescent under the skin. He pressed his thumb against it and felt warmth, as though something long dormant had been reawakened. By dawn, he decided he couldn't stay inside. He needed answers. He followed the faint energy readings from his scanner toward the ridge where she had appeared. The readings pulsed steadily, their rhythm syncing with his heartbeat. As he climbed, the soil grew colder, the air thinner. Static crackled faintly around him. Then he saw it, her ship, if it could be called that. It was beautiful and impossible, shaped like a fragment of light trapped in motion. Its surface shimmered with translucent layers, each one shifting in and out of visibility, creating a dizzying illusion of depth. The ship emitted no sound, only a deep, harmonic vibration that resonated in his bones. As he approached, the air thickened with a scent he couldn't describe, something between ozone and rain, but ancient, as if space itself exhaled. The woman waited near the ship's base, her silver skin reflecting the early light. Her movements were graceful but deliberate, like someone balancing between exhaustion and purpose. She looked at him as if she'd been expecting him. "I didn't think you would come," she said softly. "I didn't think you were real," he replied. His voice sounded strange to him, small against the scale of what stood before him. "You said I saved your son. That can't be right." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You doubt your own kindness." "I doubt everything right now." He hesitated, then gestured toward the crystal object she had shown him before. "That thing, it made me see something. A memory. Or a dream." "Not a dream," she said. "A fragment. What they left you with." He frowned. "Who are they?" "The ones who fear what you remember," she said. "Your commanders. The architects of the collapse. The men who traded mercy for control." He stepped closer, anger sparking beneath confusion. "I fought in the collapse wars. I saw what your kind did. Entire colonies defended themselves," she interrupted, her tone steady. "You saw the aftermath, not the beginning. The war was not what you were told." Her eyes gleamed with something he couldn't name, sorrow, perhaps, or pity. "You saved my son during the final siege of Valira Prime. Your fleet was ordered to sterilize the surface. You refused. You disobeyed and pulled him from the ruins. Do you remember what you said to me?" He tried to speak but couldn't. The images came unbidden, fire raining from orbit, screams transmitted through broken comm channels, a small child gasping beneath wreckage. Then a voice, his own, saying, "No child dies for a war they didn't start." The words were shards, broken and incomplete, but real. He staggered back, clutching his head. "You were court-martialed," she continued, her voice low. "They erased your memories, sealed your record, and exiled you here. But you left something behind." She opened her hand, revealing the crystal again. It pulsed softly, matching the beat under his skin. "Your DNA is encoded within this," she said. "Your human biology stabilized my son's failing system. The bond between you both is still alive. That is why I can find you, even across the void." Elias stared at the glowing fragment. It was beautiful and terrifying. "Why now?" he asked quietly. "Why come after all these years?" "Because the silence is ending," she said. "The same hands that erased you are moving again. They are preparing to reignite the war, this time without witnesses, without mercy. And your memory, your proof, threatens everything they've built." He looked at her, unable to speak. The wind shifted, carrying faint echoes from the ship, whispers that sounded almost human. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see faint circuitry glowing beneath her skin, patterns that pulsed like veins of light. "I want you to remember," she said. "Because when you do, they will come for both of us. And when they do, the truth must survive." Elias felt the air tighten around them. The ship's glow intensified, casting long shadows across the ridge. Somewhere beyond the horizon, thunder rolled, not from a storm, but from engines breaking orbit. His scanners began to spike, registering an incoming transmission from high atmosphere. He looked up and saw dark shapes cutting across the sky, human dropships, vast and unmarked. "How did they find us?" he asked. "They never stopped watching you," she replied. Her gaze turned toward the sky, calm but resolute. "This world was your prison. It has become your battlefield once more." The first explosion struck the far edge of the valley, a bloom of orange against the blue wheat. Elias's instincts took over. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the farmhouse. "If they're here for me, they'll burn this whole place down," he said. "They're not here for you," she said quietly, glancing back toward the sky. "They're here for what you remember." He didn't understand, not fully, but as the second blast wave tore through the fields and the horizon burned, something within him awakened, old reflexes, old courage. The silence of 10 years shattered, and Elias Varon remembered what it felt like to fight for something that mattered. The ground quaked as the human dropships descended, their engines ripping through the upper atmosphere like thunder from an old god. The fields of blue wheat caught the reflection of fire, glowing gold and silver as they swayed under shockwaves. Elias and the alien woman ran toward the farmhouse, their feet sinking into magnetic soil that buzzed faintly underfoot. The machines that had tended the land for years now flickered erratically, their command signals overridden by the electromagnetic surge from orbit. Inside, the lights dimmed, the generator stuttered, and every device connected to the central grid went dead. Elias sealed the door, his mind racing through combat instincts he thought had been erased. He moved with the calm of someone who had been here before, different war, same fear. He grabbed the old pulse rifle from its rack and checked the charge cells. The weapon was obsolete but reliable, a relic from the last human war before peace had turned to quiet repression. The woman watched him, her expression unreadable, though her eyes shimmered faintly with inner light. "They are not here to arrest you," she said. "They will erase everything. You, me, this entire world if they must." "I've heard that kind of threat before," Elias replied, loading the weapon. "Usually it comes before someone realizes I'm not so easy to erase." She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the center of the room, where the faint holographic projection of her crystal began to manifest on its own, its glow cutting through the darkness like a heartbeat in the air. Lines of data spilled across the walls, symbols that shifted between human and alien code, flickering in patterns he couldn't decipher. The farmhouse became a small cathedral of light and whispering energy. Elias felt the charge building around her, a presence that was both mechanical and organic. "What are you doing?" "I am waking him," she said softly. "My son's consciousness exists within this crystal, stored as a quantum echo. But the pattern is incomplete. You hold the missing half." He took a step back. "You're saying, what? That you need my DNA? My memories?" "Your resonance," she replied. "The neural frequency that once bound your life to his. It was dormant, until you saw me again. Now it's active." Before he could respond, the walls trembled. The first dropship touched down beyond the wheat fields, followed by 2 more. Through the window, he could see black-armored soldiers disembarking, silent, faceless, efficient. No insignias. They moved like machines, scanning the terrain with precision. His heart sank. He recognized the formation. Ghost Division. A covert unit that answered only to Central Command, the same organization that had wiped his memory. The woman turned toward him. "They will not negotiate." "I know." He reached for a control panel hidden beneath the kitchen floorboards and activated the emergency defense grid. The old security drones powered up, emerging from underground storage. They were outdated but still armed, their optics flickering to life. Outside, the air filled with the hum of energy as targeting lasers painted the advancing troops. The first exchange came like lightning. Plasma bursts lit the fields, slicing through the wheat in glowing arcs. Elias ducked as shards of burning soil shattered the windows. His drones retaliated, launching streaks of blue light into the advancing formation. He could hear their comms, distorted, encrypted, but unmistakably human. They were calling for authorization to engage heavy ordnance. "They're going to level this place," he said. The woman placed her hand on his arm. "We must leave. My ship can shield us, but only if we merge your resonance with the crystal. It is the only way to keep the data intact." He stared at her. "You want me to connect with that thing in the middle of a firefight?" Her gaze didn't waver. "If you die here, they win. If the truth dies with you, everything ends as it began." Outside, the defense drones began to fall, one after another. The soldiers were advancing fast, their armor reflecting the plasma fire like liquid metal. Elias took a deep breath and nodded. "Do it." She extended her hand, and the crystal's light grew brighter, enveloping the room in white luminescence. He felt a pull, a vibration deep within his skull as if his memories were being gently uncoiled. Images flickered, Belira Prime, the child gasping for air, his own voice whispering a promise. His consciousness stretched, and for a moment, he saw beyond himself, saw through her. The memory of her son was alive, flickering like a distant star. The pain, the fear, the gratitude, all preserved within that glowing shard. The fusion of human and alien energy erupted, shaking the walls. Outside, the soldiers halted, blinded by the pulse that rolled across the fields. Their scanners failed. Communications dropped. Even the orbiting ships reported interference so severe their systems rebooted. Elias's farmhouse became the eye of a silent storm. Then it was over. The light dimmed. The air felt heavier. Elias staggered, struggling to breathe, his mind half submerged in alien visions. The woman caught him before he fell. "He is awake," she whispered. Through the fading glow of the crystal, a holographic figure appeared, small, ethereal, and unmistakably childlike. His form wavered like smoke, but his eyes were real, reflecting both human and alien light. "Mother," the voice said softly. She knelt, her hands trembling. "I am here." The moment was fragile, like glass balanced on wind. Then a sharp blast ripped through the wall. Soldiers breached the farmhouse, their rifles raised. Elias turned, still half-dazed, and fired instinctively. The first soldier fell, armor smoking. Another followed. The child's hologram pulsed violently, emitting a shockwave that threw the attackers backward. The woman rose, her expression changing from grief to fury. Energy gathered around her, bending space itself. "No more," she said. The sound that followed wasn't human. It was the tearing of reality, a thunderous wave that erased the nearest soldiers in a burst of light and dust. Elias shielded his face as the shockwave shattered every window and tore through the field. When it ended, silence fell again. Only the hum of her ship remained. Elias lowered his weapon, staring at her in disbelief. "You just..." "They will send more," she interrupted, her voice shaking. "This was only the beginning. Now that you've awakened the bond, they will hunt us across every system." He looked toward the horizon, where dark shapes still moved in the sky. The truth had weight now, a gravity that couldn't be undone. He felt it pressing against his chest, the memory of mercy, the consequence of compassion. The woman reached for his hand, her touch warm despite the chaos around them. "We must leave this world," she said. "The war you thought ended never truly died. It waits for those who remember." And as they stepped out into the burning dawn, the first signals of pursuit began echoing from orbit, carrying the promise of a reckoning neither species could escape. The evacuation was chaos woven in silence. Her ship, a fragment of light folded into itself, pulsed at the edge of the field as if resisting the fabric of this world. Its form shifted each second, a living equation, part matter, part energy. Elias followed her through the smoke, his boots sinking into scorched soil that hissed beneath his steps. Behind them, the farmhouse collapsed, its walls curling inward like burned paper. The crystal hovered between them, faintly pulsing with the rhythm of two synchronized heartbeats. Above, human ships began to reposition. Their formation was methodical, 3 squadrons, triangular spread, a pattern he recognized from orbital suppression protocols. They weren't just here to kill, they were here to erase every trace of the encounter, every anomaly, every piece of her. Elias knew the directive by heart. He had once followed it himself. As they reached the ridge, the alien mother turned toward him, her voice carried not by air but through resonance, a vibration threading directly through his thoughts. Once we leave orbit, they will activate the interdiction field. They'll try to trap us between layers of space. Meaning, she said calmly, we will not survive if we use standard propulsion. The ground beneath them split as her ship extended a bridge of refracted light, solidifying beneath their feet. Each step they took dissolved the path behind them, as though the universe refused to keep a record. The air shimmered, and gravity seemed to loosen. Elias felt his stomach drop as they crossed into the vessel's field. Inside, the laws of motion and mass ceased to obey reason. The interior was vast, larger than its exterior, filled with shifting geometry, walls that bent and folded like origami made of starlight. He stumbled, disoriented. This isn't a ship, he muttered. It's a living thing. She was born, not built, the woman said. Her touch steadied him. My kind learned to grow our vessels from living plasma long before your species walked its first city. This one, my companion, has slept for decades. The ship seemed to hum in acknowledgement. Elias felt something brush his thoughts, curiosity, recognition. It was faint but real, as if the vessel itself was studying him. It knows me, he said quietly. It remembers your energy from the day you saved my son. You touched our kind then, not just with your hands, but your essence. Such connections do not fade. He wanted to ask more, but alarms blared across the ship's surface, deep harmonic tones that resonated through the structure. They've locked on, she said. They are preparing to fire. Elias glanced at the sensor readouts, which appeared as glowing sigils hovering in the air. They're deploying a gravitic net. If it hits, it'll tear us apart molecule by molecule. I know. She closed her eyes, and the ship responded. The floor trembled. The walls rippled, and Elias felt the air thicken until it shimmered like glass. Stars stretched into long ribbons as space folded around them. Then everything inverted, sound, light, gravity, all collapsing into a moment of blinding white. When it cleared, they were gone. Elias gasped, clutching his chest. His body felt weightless and heavy at once. Through the observation veil, he saw the stars bending. Beyond them, the faint afterimage of Illyra 9 shrinking into darkness. What did you do? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. The glow of the crystal between them flickered weakly. We crossed into the subspace seam between dimensions. We are not fully in your universe anymore. He exhaled shakily. That's supposed to be impossible. Your science calls it impossible because your species fears what it cannot predict, she said. My people learned that prediction is an illusion. He studied her, the soft radiance of her skin illuminating the chamber. There was no arrogance in her voice, only exhaustion. You've been running for 3 years, he said. All this time, you've been looking for me. Why not hide? Why not stay beyond their reach? Because I needed you to remember, she said quietly. Your memory is not yours alone. It contains the last coordinates of the peace treaty that never came to pass. You carried the data unknowingly, embedded within your neural implant. The day you defied orders, they encrypted the proof inside you before wiping your mind. He froze. You're saying, they used me? They used your guilt, she said. They erased your defiance and buried the evidence in the mind of the man least likely to look for it. Elias sank into one of the ship's crystalline seats, his thoughts spinning. The memories that had begun to surface now burned behind his eyes. He remembered the child's face, fragile, luminous, and the chaos of his commanding officers shouting orders to retreat. He remembered overriding his armor's failsafe to stabilize the alien boy's breathing. And now, with clarity that chilled him, he remembered the flash of light that followed, the beam that had struck him, ending the memory, beginning the lie. They didn't just want to hide what I did, he said slowly. They wanted to destroy the proof that peace was possible. The alien mother nodded. They feared what compassion would cost them. A tremor rippled through the ship. The stars outside distorted again. They found us, she whispered. How? Because we are bound, she said. Your neural code still transmits faintly across their network. Your existence is a beacon. He rose. Then cut it out. I can't, she said. Not without killing you. The realization settled over him like frost. He looked at her, then at the crystal floating between them. Then we end it another way. We show them. She stared at him for a long moment, then inclined her head. If you send the memory, they will come for every world that carries it. Then let them, Elias said. But this time, everyone will see what they've been fighting for. The crystal flared, light spilling across the chamber, crawling up the walls like veins of living fire. Elias felt it reach into his mind again, this time not taking, but giving. The suppressed memories came in full, his act of defiance, the child's breath returning, the look of disbelief on the alien mother's face. He had given everything that day, and now it was time to give it again. The ship's system synchronized with his neural frequency. Transmission nodes opened across the void. A single pulse, carrying the memory of mercy, began to ripple outward, toward every human relay, every listening post, every mind still willing to see. The woman turned toward him, her eyes glistening. Once this begins, there will be no turning back. I stopped running a long time ago, Elias said. And as the first wave of light left the ship, spreading across the stars like dawn breaking over a dark horizon, Elias Varon finally remembered not just who he was, but why he had chosen to save a child that wasn't his own. The transmission burned across the dark like wildfire through dry stars. Every relay, every abandoned satellite, every silent listening post of the old wars caught it, a pulse of light encoded with a human heartbeat and the truth buried beneath decades of fear. On the bridge of the living ship, Elias stood surrounded by the shimmering geometry of her kind, each fractal pulse a reflection of what he had unleashed. His body trembled, half from exhaustion, half from what he now knew he could not stop. The alien mother watched the unfolding storm through the veil. Her expression was unreadable, the crystalline glow in her skin dimming as though the act itself had taken something from her. They will come, she said softly. Not just to silence us. To silence what you have shown them. Then let them come, Elias replied. His voice was hoarse but steady. This time, they'll see the truth before they destroy it. Outside, the void shimmered. Fleets emerged from subspace, human vessels first, their sharp metallic silhouettes forming a wall of light, followed by the silent forms of alien ships, drawn by the signal like echoes responding to a forgotten prayer. For the first time in centuries, the two species faced each other not through translators or targeting arrays, but through memory. The pulse carried everything, the image of a human soldier holding an alien child, the trembling breath of life returning where death had been expected, the silent plea that had crossed the stars. The fleets hesitated. No commands were issued. No weapons fired. Across the quantum spectrum, the transmission looped again and again, burning into every network until even the ship's AIs froze in contemplation. The past refused to die. The alien mother approached Elias. "You've done what no council or commander could do," she said. "You made them feel." He looked at her, weary, almost transparent beneath the vessel's glow. "You said once that your ship was alive. That she remembered me. She does. Then she'll remember what comes next." He turned to the control core. The crystal that had carried the message pulsed weakly now, its structure fraying at the edges. Every transmission took more of his life energy. The neural implant was burning out, and with it, the last pieces of who he had been. The woman stepped closer. "If you continue, you won't survive." He smiled faintly. "I wasn't supposed to survive the first time either." The light deepened around him. Data streams intertwined with his pulse, each wave of energy brighter than the last. Through the ship's living hull, he saw the fleets shifting, human vessels lowering their weapons, alien formations breaking pattern. A fragile stillness settled, like the moment before sunrise. Then a voice crackled through the human comm-net, female, uncertain. "This is Admiral Kyra Dallin of the Sol Federation. Identify yourself." Elias leaned forward. "Name's Elias Varin. Former commander, 9th Recon Unit. You buried me under your lies 20 years ago." Silence followed. Then, softer, "Varin, you're dead." He almost laughed. "Maybe I was. But the truth isn't." Another voice joined the channel, alien, low and melodic. "This is Consul Trihul of the Tsar Dominion. The signal you sent carries our child's memory. The one who lived." Kyra's voice faltered. "That's impossible." "It's history," Elias said. "One your kind chose to erase." Across the distance, the fleets drifted closer, hesitation turning into fragile curiosity. The signal spread further still, reaching the colonies, the orbital archives, the civilian networks. Every human and alien with access to a data feed saw the same thing, the moment when compassion triumphed over protocol. The alien mother turned to Elias. "It's done. You've changed the pattern." But he was fading, his body dimming within the ship's ambient light. "Not me," he whispered. "We did." She caught him as his knees gave way, lowering him gently to the shimmering floor. His eyes were distant, fixed on something beyond the visible spectrum. "You'll need to finish what I started," he murmured. "Make them remember again when they forget." Her hand rested over his chest, feeling the last rhythm of his pulse. "You are remembered," she said, the ancient words of her kind carrying across the chamber. "Across the void, across time, your kindness endures." The light within the crystal flared one final time, then dissolved into the air like stardust. The ship shuddered, releasing a harmonic wave that rippled outward, carrying his essence into the same field that had once connected all sentient life. The fleets above received the final transmission, a single line of code burned into their cores: "Mercy is the memory that keeps us alive." The alien mother stood alone now on the deck, the stars turning slow and silver beyond the veil. For the first time in 3 years, the search that had defined her existence was over. She gazed at the distant glow of Earth, a blue spark among billions, and felt no hatred, only the quiet ache of understanding. In the weeks that followed, the transmission would reshape everything. Treaties would be signed not by diplomats but by those who had once fought, now bound by the memory of one act of mercy. The archives of both species would name it the Varin signal, the pulse that changed the fate of 2 civilizations. And far beyond the edges of mapped space, where dying stars whispered through the dark, the living ship drifted in silence. Deep within her core, a faint echo persisted, Elias's voice, repeating like a heartbeat through the fabric of her being. "If they ever forget, remind them who they were when they chose compassion over conquest." The alien mother closed her eyes, listening to that endless echo. The stars awaited, and for the first time in her long wandering, she no longer searched. She carried the answer within her, the proof that even across galaxies, one act of kindness could rewrite the destiny of worlds.